Hey guys, how we doing? Please, at ease. At ease. Good Lord, sit down and eat. Sit down and eat. Don't let the Vice President stop you guys from getting your chow here. How we doing? It's cold as here. Nobody told me. Well, thank you all for everything you do, and thanks for having us. So please sit down, guys. Please, please. I want you to eat your food.
I did do PT with the troops this morning. Listen, it's not that long ago that I was right there with them. I probably, no offense, General, I probably connect more with those guys than I do with four-star generals. But now I get the chance of working with four stars and others who are committed to the troops. But when I can get down, do push-ups and deadlifts with the troops, and just hear from them, what's working, what isn't, how do you see your mission set? I love that. So there was never a doubt, even though we got in at 2 a.m, that we were getting up a couple hours later to go do PT. It's a reminder that you guys, the press in Washington, might think I'm young, but in military terms, I'm old. And that showed this morning with these young guys who ran circles around me in that parking lot.
All the tier 1 guys, they go do the most dangerous jobs in the world. But the difference, they get to get on an airplane and come back to the United States of America. Police officers are deployed 365 days a year, 7 days a week in a city that they have to work in. You want to talk about paranoia? I can't even go to Best Buy with my son without being bumped into somebody that I arrested for a drug charge. And I don't know if he's going to kill me right here, right now. That's paranoia. 185 law enforcement officers killed themselves in 2023. 136 died in the line of duty. Why are we having more officers dying by self-inflicted gunshot wounds than they are fighting crime? It's because the leadership is pushing us to the point where we would rather kill ourselves than have to see your fucking face in the morning. That's the problem, and it needs to be addressed nationwide. Bad leaders need to be held accountable. They need to be fired. There are some good-ass cops out there, man, still doing the right thing. When the time comes and there's a little hiccup in what they're doing, they're thrown to the wolves, and their families have to suffer because it comes out of a paycheck. That's bullshit.
Welcome back, everybody. We're just going to jump into it. For those of you that know me already, good to have you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a law enforcement trainer and instructor. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, use of force, non-lethal, etc. And as you can see, I'm in a hotel room because I'm training now. And so this is one of these questions that I get asked a lot. I get asked all the time, no matter where I go, what is good leadership? What does that look like? And there's a lot of nuance with that. But as you can kind of see from the video, I have a bias, a military veteran. So I have a bias towards a deck plate leadership model. So this is what I refer to as good leadership. And I think these are the core traits that we have. And the reason why I like deck plate leadership is because it's tried, it's proven, it's successful. When you go through and you incorporate this leadership model, when you incorporate these values, you will have positive results. That's why they do it. So deck plate leadership, it refers to a style of leadership that emphasizes being present at the deck plate. So where the working is happening, at the working level. And by leading by example, knowing the mission, and developing your team's skills, knowledge, and character. That is what good leadership is about. And so the next question naturally that we have to ask ourselves is, why is good leadership so rare? Well, we can make excuses for a lot of the stuff, but let's just be honest. Let's air the dirty laundry out, because I think it's important for us to be honest. And everybody's going to have their own leadership model. Everybody's going to have what they think. But when it really comes down to it, again, this is tried and true. I didn't invent this leadership model, right? This is a leadership model the military has been using for a very long time, and they use it because when done properly, it is successful. So why is good leadership so difficult to find? Because it requires those in positions of power and authority to actually do the following, right? Requires them to show up. It's hard to be a leader. It's hard to be in a leadership position. It's hard to effectively lead when you're not there. It's hard to effectively lead in your absence. It's hard to do work when you're not there to do work. Again, this is a painfully true reality. The next thing is know the job. Knowing the job is important. And in law enforcement, a lot of the times, especially in a time where everybody is claiming that, law enforcement is rare as far as we have a big Manning crisis, right? That's what I hear all the time. People are just looking for bodies. You don't know what you don't know. So when you have a 2 or 3 year sergeant, right? So you have somebody that, has been on the road 2 or 3 years and they're automatically thrust into a sergeant position, for example. Well, it's hard to say that you actually know the job. It's hard to say that you can do the job effectively when you yourself are still learning how to do the job. And now as a shift leader, as somebody who's in charge of a shift, you are making calls and you're making judgment calls and you're making decisions that not only affect people in real life, but they affect how policy is going to be administered. You're affecting how the judicial process essentially is going to work on your shift. You're going to be responding to calls for service. You're going to be making decisions. You're going to be making judgment calls, and you're going to be critiquing other officers. And so the idea that a 2 or 3 year officer that is doing the job for 2 or 3 years is somehow ready for that, maybe some are, but that's a big problem. You don't know what you don't know. If you don't know how to do the job yourself, how do you expect to lead others? Understanding the mission. Again, when you don't have the academic prowess, when you don't have the hands-on experience, and you truly don't know what the mission is because those above you have not set a defined mission, how do you expect to be successful in your endeavors, your work endeavors, your professional endeavors, your human endeavors, if you can't even articulate what the mission of your department is, right? Go up to, it's amazing. Go up to a sergeant, go up to a police officer, go up to somebody of authority and say, what is your city's motto? What is the mission statement of this organization? You would be surprised how many people just don't know. They have no idea. Next, you have to have the knowledge you want others to have, right? So if you're a chief of police and you want your officers to be good, prudent officers that understand case law and don't violate people's rights, maybe you should also know what the first couple amendments are at a minimum, right? If you're a police chief and you don't know what the first 5 constitutional amendments are, well, how do you expect your subordinates to know when you don't know? If you can't tell me what reasonable articulable suspicion is, how do you expect your officers to know? If you can't tell me the case law that talks about the totality of circumstances, right? If you can't quote Illinois v. Gates, how do you expect your officers to know what totality of circumstances are? How do you expect your officers to know what these law enforcement doctrines are? How do you expect them to know how to do their job when you yourself can't articulate what you're wanting of them? Again, it makes no sense. And lastly, here's the big one. And there's definitely more. But these are the big critical ones I see. Displaying the character you want emulated, right? And if you go to any of these, I think they're comical. For cops, for the real cops, for the goon cops, right? For the cops that go out there and do proactive policing, right? Copville being one of them on Instagram. There's a lot of these social media law enforcement social media pages that talk about what it is to be a real proactive cop, right? And without a shadow of a doubt, they joke about excessive use of force. They joke about cheating on their wives, partners. They joke about, taking rhino boner pills, taking too much nicotine, taking too much caffeine, all good stuff, all funny stuff, all stuff that's in humor, but also stuff that's truly derived from real life, right? The idea that cops constantly chasing nurses, constantly chasing people that they're not in relationships with, all this stuff. We know that happens. It's a very common thing in law enforcement. It's a very common in the military. It's a very common thing to talk about military service members going over to these third world nations to find partners. All these different things that we see that from a comical standpoint does come from also a point of truth, right? And so, and let's just talk about the elephant in the room real quick. Let's talk about, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. There have been some controversies that have kind of marred his reputation. But and again, I'm not here to defend or not defend anybody, but you have to be able to display the character that you want emulated. And at least in the Secretary of Defense's case, he has taken ownership, and he has said, these decisions that I've made were bad, and he's brought up his religious faith. He's brought up the fact that I know that they're bad, and I'm publicly coming in public, and I'm owning it, and I'm saying it's bad. How many police sergeants out there are owning that them cheating on their spouses, getting people of their own departments fired because of infidelity, because of fraternization? How many of them are willing to get up and say, I was wrong, don't do that? How many police lieutenants are willing to do that? How many police chiefs are willing to say, yes, this is wrong? Right? So again, if you're unwilling to display the character you want emulated, how do you expect to have good leadership? And that's an open-ended question on your end. How do you honestly expect the rank structure, right? How do you expect that to be honored, right? How do you expect it to go smoothly, right? How do you expect it to be done correctly when the people in positions of power and authority can't even take ownership of their actions? So you can't take, as a leader, ownership for your actions, but now you're demanding that excellence that you can't even demonstrate onto your subordinates. Again, make it make sense. And so I think that's one of the things that is a big problem in law enforcement, is that deck plate leadership, is that good leadership. And these are all different things that mar that and make it difficult. So again, this is just to be honest and transparent with the everyday person. Again, you can agree, you can disagree. That's not my call. But this is an ever big issue, and it is causing lots of problems. So that's what I have for you guys. If you guys like the comment, please like, share, subscribe. And more importantly, tell me in the comment section what you think. Do you think deck plate leadership is good leadership? Do you think, for those of you that are law enforcement, do you think I'm spot on? What do you think I got wrong? What do you think I got right? But more importantly, what's your viewpoint on it? What do you think good leadership is? And how do we make leadership better, especially in our law enforcement communities? I'm interested to know in the comment section below. As always, guys, long live the Republic.